Alright, so here we are in front of the elephants.
It was a pretty sunset.
We're officially rolling, Daddy-O.
Rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Oh, yeah.
It's your
I guess I should start, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I guess so. Film Master is technically your show.
I guess it
Oddly
is.
enough, yeah.
It was an offshoot of Film and just anyways. Okay. All right. Howdy and welcome back to Film Asterisk. I am Donk, as always, joined by Revis, and today we are talking about a lovely movie from the year 2014, Into the Storm. This is actually a remote episode. I have once again traveled back to scenic Indiana to hang out with Connor, watch some movies, eat some food, and go into the storm. Connor, thank you, as always, for joining us.
You're welcome, Dan. Thank you for having me in my own home to talk
Yes.
about Into the Storm today.
On your sound mixer.
On my sound mixer, on my possibly too cheap of microphones.
Yeah, but today we're talking about Into the Storm, as you might have seen from the title. 2014 disaster film directed by Stephen Quayle, starring Richard Armitage, Sarah Wayne Callies, who you said was from Walking Dead.
She's from The Walking Dead.
She's from Walking Dead.
She played, I'm forgetting her name. I don't like referring to the character as Rick Grimes' wife, but Rick Grimes' wife, Lori, on The Walking Dead, yeah.
And a fun semi-surprise appearance by Nathan Kress.
Yeah.
Of Nickelodeon sitcom universe
of
fame.
video game high school fame.
Oh my god. Yes, of video game high school fame.
Or video game, never mind, that's not a good pun.
What is it?
I was gonna say video game fame school. Or video fame high school. There
Video
we go.
Fame High School.
Video fame high school.
Well,
There we go.
Last night we watched 2014's Into the Storm. And yeah, I guess we didn't really have too much, like, going into it,
No.
really.
We saw the trailer last March.
And we thought it was really...
It looked insane.
It looked insane.
So, yeah.
And it kind of is, in some moments, for sure. But, yeah, let's just get into it. Let's just get into talking about the movie and that opening scene that really starts with a bang. Does that have anything to do with the rest of the movie?
No,
All those characters... Do we see those characters again?
Well, no, they die.
Yeah, but...
We don't know who these people are. They're from a town neighboring the one the rest of the characters live in. Because in the beginning, Sarah Wayne Callies' character, who I'm blanking on her character's name. I'll be honest, the only character's name I remember is Trey, because that's Nathan Kress.
Nathan Kress. It's Allison.
Is Allison, yes. Allison mentions there was a storm that came through the previous day.
Yes, she's a storm chaser.
Yeah, and Matt Walsh was pissed they missed it because he spent his entire life looking for these storms. No, we did not know these people. We just know that there's a guy with a camcorder who goes outside and gets killed by a dead silent tornado.
Yes. As you probably know from what I have titled this episode, Tornadoes, the Silent Killer. Because this is a lighthearted conversation about a disaster movie about tornadoes.
Yeah.
That is relatively inaccurate. Almost.
Here's the thing. It is accurate in the sense that we watched a special feature on the Blu-ray,
Yes.
which I bought for $6
Yes.
from Best Buy. That they put effort into making the conditions of the storms realistic for the actors to help their performances.
Yes.
And the actual on-set, there's some really cool wind effects, very cool stuff. They're dropping actual cars 10 feet from Richard Armitage. It's cool stuff.
Yes.
But no, the actual how tornadoes work is not super accurate for this movie. I doubt they consulted any actual meteorologists for the production of this film.
And it's not just that the tornadoes themselves aren't really functioning as they should. This film is also kind of meant to function as a found footage documentary style movie. Not really a la Blair Witch, because that's
Cloverfield
or
anything
Cloverfield.
like that, yeah.
It's closer to Cloverfield. It's farther down the progression of Cloverfield. I think it probably found footing with the success of Cloverfield, honestly.
You mean it found footage? with
oh
Cessa
my God.
Cloverfield.
Yeah. What? I did not.
That's 2 for 1 today. Yeah,
Yes.
Video Fame High School and found footage. But what
Yeah.
Dan is getting to is in this movie, the conceit is that it is found footage. You have the 2 main characters, I would say, or at least 2 of the main characters, Trey and his brother, who likes girl, are filming the graduation ceremony for the high school in which their dad is the assistant principal. Donnie and Trey, thank you.
Yeah.
And they have like Vixia-esque camcorders. And anything they shoot with these Vixia-esque camcorders is like red footage.
Yes, it literally looks like 4K.
Yeah, 4K
like, high
cinema camera
definition.
footage.
Instead of what a Vixia would do is like this 720p, grainy. Yeah, like
it looks like a camcorder.
Yeah, like low quality footage, which we don't even. The only time we actually get lower stuff is the security cameras from the high school.
Yeah, the hallways of the high school. But every single camera they use, whether it's a 5D Mark IV the Storm Chasers had, or the cinema camera in the actual Storm Chaser truck.
Or like those old rectangular.
Oh yeah, the freaking what are those called?
Yeah,
are they called flip cams?
Flip cams, maybe.
I filmed a presentation in high school on Egyptian culture with one of those.
Yes, it's a flip video.
Ancient Egyptian culture, but yeah, it's a flip video. Like
this thing.
Donk and Revis, which Dan mentioned, are these 2 I don't know if this is an insensitive term to say, but 2 hillbilly storm chasers, amateur daredevils, who are filming all this on their flip cam. And the flip cam has the same resolution as the Vixias, as the cinema camera, as everything else.
As if it's just like the highest production value.
Yes. And it's, as a found footage project, it doesn't fully, it's not, I'm trying to not be as judgmental of motion pictures now that I'm actually trying to get into the space and I'm graduated from film school. But I will say, and no offense to, is it Richard Quayle? Stephen,
Quayle.
Wow.
You're thinking Richard Armitage.
Yes, Richard Armitage. To Stephen Quayle.
Yes.
And the cinematographer and the team behind this movie. As a found footage project, this movie does not work.
It doesn't. Also, like, they legitimately do just abandon that. They abandon it past, like, the 2/3 mark almost completely.
But the thing is, when they abandon it, it's not clear they abandoned it because it all looks the same.
Because it all looks the same. It just melds together.
And all they had to do when I'm fine if you abandon it. You can have like a mixed media film. That's really interesting to do.
Yes, I don't mind that.
But like here's the Vixia footage. Actually, literally Vixia footage.
Yeah.
And then it cut to the outside of the truck. I'm like, okay, cool, interesting stuff. Like a way to convey that. But another unspoken thing, kind of going to the found footage conceit, is this movie is framed as a documentary about the events that happened.
Yes. And they're like just compiling all this footage that they were able to recover after the storm.
When characters are introduced, it has their name and like a blurb about them on the bottom of the screen. Like someone is editing this together.
Kind of hard to see when you have captions on, but I was trying to catch them. Yeah.
And I brought up to Dan, it's kind of, in world of this movie, which they never address. I was hoping at the end they have like, well, we gathered all the footage and we're going to remember them by this video, whatever. But in world, it's never addressed how someone made this and put this together.
Yeah.
And it's a narrative documentary or a nonfiction feature.
Yeah.
Like a kind of like In Cold Blood, kind of take.
Which is really interesting. Like it's a unique thing that it ends up being kind of accidentally. Yeah. I don't think it was going for that.
It really stumbles into it. I doubt that Stephen Quayle was like, it's like In Cold Blood when he was pitching it to whatever studio.
It's like In Cold Blood meets Cloverfield.
Yeah.
But no
In Cold Blood meets Twister.
Yes.
But yeah, it never dives deep enough into the actual technicalities of trying to do this found footage movie. And I think here's the thing, I wouldn't be surprised if this movie did not have the found footage conceit. When it was pitched or when it was written, and this was 2014, right?
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised where it's like, well, found footage is in. People love found footage.
Yeah, exactly.
You had Cloverfield, then which movie that was probably an inspiration for this movie we're not talking about is probably Chronicle.
Oh, Chronicle, absolutely.
I bet Chronicle was a big thing where they're like, well, teens, cameras, disasters. They're like, okay, let's go.
Dude,
Chronicle,
I didn't
great
even
movie.
Think about that one. That's a really good comparison. Yeah.
2 years previous, so when this movie was probably getting off the ground in development, Chronicle had come out, and they, like studio executives are prone to do.
Like there is a market for this. Let's do another. You know.
Yeah, but people
Let's get that one boy who always shoots videos on Nickelodeon. Nathan Kress.
I joked with Dan that Nathan Kress was probably cast because Trey, the character, constantly has the Vixia in his hand to the point it's it's comical.
Yes.
I mean, like, he's in the middle of a tornado and he's just like holding the camera up, just like staring at people.
It's not even good
Yeah,
as the iCarly video camera that we.
If there's a great special, you saw the Quentin reviews,
Yes,
iCarly videos where they show the actual
found
camera.
Freddy's camera with a blue glow stick on it.
Yeah, just so great. It's not a Bluetooth camera whatsoever. That's Quentin reviews, good stuff.
Amazing stuff. Check out Quentin reviews.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's a point. It's like it's insane that he's holding a camera this entire time. And I joked with Dan, which might not have been a joke, it might have been the actual reality of what happened.
Yeah.
Is it feels like the casting director was just watching Nickelodeon with their kids.
Yeah.
And like, oh, we need to have a boy who's kind of funny and he holds a camera. And they're like, oh, that guy from the iCarly show.
Exactly. Literally.
Yeah.
And at this point, they'd be kind of into the later seasons.
Yeah.
It'd be an established show.
Yeah.
And and they're like, wait, the show's ending. He's going to be free.
Yeah, Nathan Kress is free.
Yeah. So,
get him right before Video Game High School.
It's funny. Nathan Kress is funny. I forgot he was in this movie. And then we're watching the movie, and a couple minutes in, he just like jumps into frame onto Donnie's like desk chair. And as like, I guess it's like his attention obsessed younger brother. He's kind of like, I don't know. Like, how would you describe him?
I mean, what does he describe Trey? I think he describes Trey as attention hungry, doesn't he?
Yeah, attention hungry brother.
Attention seeking.
Attention seeking brother.
Yeah, he's just a younger brother who's snarky and like pushes him to like talk to the girl he likes and yeah. Which no, there's a lot to talk about this movie. Yeah.
I mean, you can just start with little things like Donnie and Trey don't look like brothers to me.
No, they don't
at all. I get they're all like the dad and the brothers. They're all white dudes with brown hair. They have that going for them.
Yeah, they are all like attractive white people with relatively the same hair color.
Yes, and they're like family. The insane call of the tornado hunters.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about like the three main storylines, you have Donnie and Trey, the brothers, and also their dad and everyone that kind of revolves to them. Then you have the tornado hunters who come to their town when the tornado hits, and then you have Ďaňk and Rivas, who are like the comedic,
the Bebop and Rocksteady of this movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So this movie, it succeeds in having very cool images, including at one point a flaming tornado, which did boost up a little bit in my score on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
But once again, I'm trying not to be mean to the movie. This movie fundamentally, I think, does not work in each of the three storylines.
Yep.
And in a big disaster tornado movie, you're not coming for the biggest, like, emotional, impactful arcs.
Yeah.
But no one in this movie really has an arc.
No, their arc is I want to survive.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's a fine arc.
Yeah.
You can survive and learn to maybe trust somebody, which arguably the dad learns to trust his sons. Arguably.
Okay, well, we'll get to that at the end.
We'll get to the end.
What the symbol is of trusting his son.
I know, yeah.
But we'll get to that.
And Donnie, like, he has issues with his dad because his mom left and then she died.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, when how spoilery are we going here, Dan?
Like, maybe we should just go heavy spoilers. It's been out for 8 years. It's not very well known, which is an issue. Like, if it's a really unknown movie, I don't like spoiling because things aren't known.
Yes, there's fun stuff in Into the Storm. If you're listening to this episode, watch the movie.
Yeah, watch it.
Watch the movie.
I think you'll enjoy this
legally,
episode
please.
a bit more.
But watch it legally, please.
Watch it legally.
Yeah, the Blu-ray $6 on BestBuy.com. If you still collect physical media, yeah, it's worth having. You know, at the very least, like, you can joke around with your friends about the insane stuff that happens in this movie.
Yes, but I guess right here, I will. Let's do heavy spoilers.
Okay.
I want to talk about this entire 89-minute film. We're gonna put in a little music right here, and we'll come back, and it's spoiler time. Okay, we're back.
Yeah, because the thing is, Dan,
right into it.
If you don't talk about the pseudo arcs of the characters and their resolutions, there's nothing to talk about with this movie.
There's not much left in the movie.
There's not much.
It's funny. I was kind of trying to capture some of the quotes that you were saying throughout the film because I was taking some notes. And like the first time we meet Ďaňk and Rivas, kind of doing like they're trying to jump a
Yeah.
flaming like above ground pool at like their mom's place. And you said it's crazy we're doing this in an 89-minute movie. And it's true. This movie, even at less than an hour and a half, is still padding things a little bit.
Yes, we're still adding these two rednecks jumping a flaming pool and their mother coming out and yelling at him for destroying her above ground pool.
Yes.
And then they immediately see a twister forming. They're like, let's go, donk.
Let's do it.
They ride their ATVs with their flip cams and are like hooting and hollering as they chase a tornado.
Badonk, man.
Badonk, as he says repeatedly. God. But yes, going back to the arcs of these characters. Towards the end, Donnie's about to drown.
Yes.
And Donnie is like, I'm about to die, so I forgive my dad.
He's like, I'm so filled with regret and all I didn't say and didn't do, so I'm just going to quickly talk to my camcorder, and hopefully when I'm dead, my dad will find this.
Which
I'm sorry.
We'll address that later, but a camcorder that doesn't exist.
The camcorders that don't exist.
They do these confessionals as a way to be like, if someone were to find their bodies, they would have these final, like, I love you, Dad, like, you know what?
Yeah.
All that jazz. And they film the girls first.
Which is... I find quite an issue with that, because it's like another example of writing like a teenage female love interest that like is somehow not put off by a lot of just Donnie as a person.
Really weird behavior.
A lot of really weird behavior that's like, oh, that's sweet. I'm like,
oh yeah,
no.
when he's like, you're really pretty.
Yeah, she's like,
and she's
wow,
like, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, and he's like, no, that's really sweet of you, Donnie.
It's like, no.
And I was like, okay, cool.
And like they're drowning, and she's talking to her parents. Is like, but hey, Donnie's here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? What? Why are you mentioning this?
Yeah, and she's like, don't worry, Mom and Dad, I didn't die alone. Donnie was here, and he's really sweet.
And I was like, what?
Okay. Here's the thing, Donnie, I'm sure, is a nice guy.
I'm sure he's fine.
And not, yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy.
No one's written realistically there to be like, it's not an actual...
No.
And cute.
To point, yeah, like Donnie, nice guy, I'm sure. It was like, he's a really sweet guy, Mom and Dad, I'm not alone, don't worry. And Donnie's like, I'm about to drown, so I forgive you, Dad.
It would make sense if they had a pre-established relationship that they knew about, like they were flirting before, or they had an extracurricular together. But it sounds like he's the kind of nerdy, awkward guy who's never talked to the hot girl.
Yes.
You know?
No, the way it was shown to us is Trey pushes him to talk to the girl at lunch. Yes. And he goes over there at their graduation day, and she mentioned. Well, I think they're like juniors or something. I don't think they're graduating yet.
Well, Trey is filming it.
Yeah.
I guess. Wait. So
why
Trey's a sophomore, and I guess they're juniors.
But why would they still be in school the day of graduation happening? I don't know.
My assumption is the way they put this out in the calendar is like graduation happens after the school day is over.
That's still so bizarre, though.
Or maybe it's like a half day, but that doesn't make any sense either. Like it's a half day of school, and then everyone else goes home, and the seniors stay.
The only thing I can think of is
because it's a Friday, right?
Yeah, my final day of high school, as a senior, I should mention. I don't know if that's not clear.
Yeah.
Our last day, we spent the last half of the day going to the venue the graduation ceremony will be at in a month, and we did like a pseudo rehearsal.
Yeah.
If that was the precedent for this movie, I would okay, cool, that works. You know, everyone's still there. They're doing the pseudo rehearsal. It's a half day. Kids are getting ready to leave.
And then, honestly, if you did that, you could end the movie on the actual graduation, which is like cliche, but it's still something.
Yeah. Maybe the town coming together for this big event. Yeah.
But we've already written a better ending to this movie. Sorry.
I'm skipping around the point so much here. Yes. But anyway, as they're filming these confessions, this arc that doesn't really work. Because he does not speak to his dad to resolve the arc. Him and his dad are separated for like 50 minutes. It's like 90-minute movie.
Yes.
Probably, roughly.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I think they finally, like, everyone's kind of together for the third act.
Yes.
Let's just converge all the stories.
Yes, and a near-death experience obviously will change your outlook. I'm not saying that. Yeah. I think you need to have one scene with his dad where he forgives him. But anyway, during this scene, they're filming the confessions. There's no camera there. In that scene, they show the girl first, and then immediately cuts to him, and it's just like a static shot talking. And then we cut back to the girl. Yeah. She's not holding a camera.
No,
like they're just like saying this to each other, but we're supposed to believe that it's a camera. And imagine, Dan, if I was dying, and like we're both in a terrible death situation, we're drowning.
Yes.
And I'm just saying, like, looking you dead in the eyes, I forgive you, Dad. I'm like, just like, can you imagine?
God. I'd be like. Wow.
For context, I just did that to Dan. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, I forgive you, Dad.
From across the room, yes.
But and then these are not really characters, but in the middle of the movie, we get sections of like they're interviewing people around town, like what's life gonna be like in 25 years.
Yeah.
And they interview these two people in particular. This guy, I forget his name, but he wants to join the NBA and have a hot trophy wife.
Yes.
And that's his thing in the interview in the beginning. And there's an interview at the end. He's like, you know what, man? I'm just happy to take one day at a time.
Yeah, because
I don't
this is
need
what
nothing.
matters, man.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't need to join the NBA and have a hot wife. I'm just gonna live day by day. And there's also an older man with his dog who's like, I don't know, in 25 years we're gonna blow it all up.
Yep.
I don't trust nobody. And at the end he's like, you know what? People are good.
Yeah, because they got him out of a call that he was stuck in. Yeah.
And it's just the thing where it's like, okay, so you're these characters, their arc literally is they're in two scenes. So one scene they're pessimistic / like greedy, I guess. The next scene they're like just living life.
This thing is like a storm brings people together.
Yes.
Which is like a very like I don't mind that, but it's just a very weak narrative device,
Dude,
I guess.
That
to like wrap
that
up the
could
film.
be a very cool arc.
It is.
And
It's
if
kind of
you-
interesting. Like if we followed those people
Yes.
and we had an extra, even just 20 minutes on this movie
Yes.
to like incorporate them
Or
in little ways.
I'm gonna
you
say
know?
something controversial, Dan.
What?
20 minutes more of the movie.
Yeah.
Or you cut out the storm chasers entirely.
But I feel like they had an idea of like, okay, we want to do a big disaster movie. We want to do tornadoes. Who would be there for tornadoes? Okay, well, the people of the town. And, oh, wait, let's put some storm chasers in.
Yeah.
Because that's just what's known about tornadoes is there's storm chasers who chase tornadoes.
Yeah.
And like they're like, oh, so what if like we get like some goofy ones?
Yeah. But you can still do Donk and Revis if it's just about the town.
You could if it's just the town of. Honestly, it'd be interesting if they were like local, like local storm chasers who aren't just going around the country, but like they're actually based in what's the town? Singleton?
Something like that.
Something like Singleton.
You could have Matt Walsh as a guy who's lived in this whole town, and he moved here because he wants to get the perfect shot of a tornado.
Yeah, because it's like in Tornado Alley. It's in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not to say there aren't some positive attributes to this film.
Yeah.
I think we had some fun here. Like I love the tank, the Titus,
the car, Titus,
the storm chasers. The main guy, Matt
Walsh. Yeah.
Matt Walsh has sunk his money into like this insane tank-like vehicle that can burrow itself in the ground to be able to withstand the winds of a tornado, so he can catch like that coveted shot of the eye of the storm inside the tornado, you know? And it's a pretty cool design. It's pretty interesting and fun, and when they do utilize it, it's cool. Like I like it.
It's a cool vehicle.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like this part is thought out, but it does feel like it's a separate movie. And once again, the arc situation, Matt Walsh is like, I want to get the perfect shot. I don't care who hurts or what I lose to get it. And then he's like, actually, I don't care about the shot no more. I care about human beings.
Yeah, I want to save these people.
Yeah.
Like, I think what it is the wake-up call is
Jacob.
Is
Fire Tornado
and
Jacob.
let's talk about Jacob.
Jacob, played by Jeremy Sumpter of 2003 Peter Pan fame.
Peter Pan.
Yeah.
The boy who can fly once
Anyway,
again.
this guy recently married, right? They say like his hot wife or his hot girlfriend.
Yeah, no, he's got like a girlfriend, and he has a lot of nerves about staying. He wants to abandon the storm chasing project, but his friend who roped him into it, because it's good money. Like Matt Walsh is paying really good money for it.
Yeah.
He mentions to Nathan Kress, hey, if you give me your footage, I'll give you $3,000 if you keep rolling. He's like, really? Which is like, wow, that's a good deal. Like, I guess. But no, his friend convinces Peter Pan, Jacob, to be like, hey man, just stick it through, all right? You'll be on a beach sipping margaritas with your hot girlfriend. And he's like, I'm not sure about that.
Well, his response was, I don't even like margaritas.
Oh.
But yes, and then he convinced him to stay. And then probably 5 minutes afterwards, it's not a very long movie.
They get, they're on the road, and another couple of tornadoes touch down. And they're outside of the tank trying to help a call that's flipped over, like the van with other people in it, kind of the backup van, which we see Allison, and now Richard Armitage was in as well because he's trying to find
trying to find his kids
trapped, drowning in the pipe. We're giving you the atmosphere. This is where we all. It's like the middle of the movie.
Yeah,
and they go there, and a tree falls on the tank, so they can't get to it in time, so they have to run to a church. But in front of the church is a tornado that has been sucking up fire from like a gas truck.
It's like a gas explosion.
Yeah, the gasoline truck has spilled and caught fire, and the flames are going up the tornado. So yeah.
Very cool image. Jeremy Sumpter, Jacob trying to get the shot, run towards it. His camera gets sucked up in the flame tornado, and then we see him get sucked up in the flame tornado. And like his body's like on fire, just spinning around.
Spinning wildly around this fire tornado.
And it's a really cool, powerful image in
it
this
is
movie.
like striking. I won't forget that for a while.
Yeah.
It was one of the craziest moments of the film.
Yeah.
If not the craziest
If not the
moment of the
craziest.
film.
If not when the moment when Doc and Revis get sucked up in the tornado too.
Insane.
Oh my gosh.
Protecting yourself using a laptop from golf ball sized hail.
Yeah.
I'm happy I get to use the phrase golf ball sized hail in a Film Asterisk episode.
Tomorrow's forecast is...
Okay, place your bets.
Partly cloudy.
Partly sunny.
Golf ball sized tail.
A chance of severe thunderstorms with golf ball-sized hail.
Woohoo!
And I think for me, the fire tornado is one of the things I just legitimately
It's
enjoy.
just really cool, yeah.
What an amazing thing. But like watching someone get pelted with golf ball sized hail and all they have is a laptop is like just kind of goofy, dumb movie things.
It's it's a very thick laptop.
It's a very thick. It's a very thick laptop. It's one of those.
It's one of those like
Double
military grade
cheaped
like,
2000s laptops. We were talking about this, and I still can't understand why it looked like this. There were points when they were clearly using like green screen.
Yes.
And they're in there, and the way the camera and the green screen and somehow the post-edit process, there were characters that look like video game characters in it. Like they're real people acting,
Yeah.
but they look fake.
I think it's just because the view outside the window, obviously, like it's the low depth of shallow depth of the field, so it's very, very blurry.
Yeah.
And I think you can tell the area completely surrounding them looks like off. So I think we make them look off.
Yeah.
They're kind of like uncanny valley by like association.
Yes.
Kind of. Yeah.
I think that is it. And
Yeah.
it was a really... I mean, that for me just as like a visual aesthetic is like...
It doesn't help that Richard Armitage looks like a video game man.
he kind of
Like
does.
he looks like if you tried to make Hugh Jackman in The Sims. Like
Has Richard Armitage like ever mocapped a video game character?
maybe.
I wonder if he has any credits.
He might have done Thorin in like a Hobbit adaptation.
That would be interesting. Because yes, if you don't know Richard Armitage, Thorin Oakenshield in the Hobbit trilogy. Okay, I guess we can kind of transition at this point into near like kind of the end of the film and some of the messages. And this is one of my favorite quotes from the entire watching experience when we realize that there's a moment Donnie is trapped under like a steel beam that's kind of also caught on like kind of like some kind of suspension wire band.
There's like a rope that like wrapped around a rock that's
Yes.
keeping the thing in place.
And luckily Trey has a buck knife on him, so he's able to give it to his dad, and his dad jumps in and he cuts it free and he saves Donnie's life. And that buck knife comes in handy quite a few times in this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, like his dad's the assistant principal, and the guy who mentions that people are good, he's the guy trapped in the car. They cut his seatbelt with the knife, I think,
Yes.
right the first
Yep.
time. And the dad's like, "Where'd you get this?" He's like, "Dad, I know, I'm sorry."
But like it helped out, and he's like, "We'll
helped
talk
out.
about it later."
We'll talk about it
you know?
later. And then like he gives the knife again and cuts the thing, and he's
Yeah.
like, Nathan Kress.
Good on you.
And yeah, it was like the movie hinges on the fact that this young boy brought a knife to school.
Yes.
Which is so crazy.
It's so
The screenwriter's like, what if Nathan Kress brings a large knife to school? And that
Yes.
way he saves his brother's life.
Oh my goodness. I have kind of a final section here where I just want to ask you some questions.
Okay.
I have some questions about the movie and your thoughts on it to kind of wrap everything up. But I do have one more point before we get to that. And that's just kind of to mention the baller VFX team that, okay, if you look at the VFX team in their credits, they have all had very varied, small, selective careers of well-known movies, and it's crazy. I think it's really interesting. I'll put a graphic up. I'm going to make something. There it is. That's all their careers and the movies they've worked on. Really interesting to see that they've all come together on this movie, Into the Storm, starring Nathan Kress. And I just want to say, like, big respect for the VFX people. I will say I think the money in this film was allocated correctly, because when we got to see the storm that we were into, like, those are some of the best moments of the film. It's like just like watching this insane tornado rip through an airport and like planes just like flying around. Like, it looked really good.
It was still very clear like this is 2014 VFX.
Yes.
But even then, like didn't look rushed or cheap, or
No.
there was obviously care and time and effort put into the special effects. And obviously the times we're living in now,
Yes.
where the VFX industry is being, I'm not gonna get a job. I'm talking all this controversial stuff. But anyway, big studios treat VFX artists terribly.
Yeah.
And that's always been a situation. With the things like the Life of Pi studio winning an Academy Award and shutting down the next week. Things like
Insane.
that. Where the way the VFX business works, at least what I understand, is it's a bid system. If, let's say, Thor Love and Thunder, because that's with a lot of controversy surrounding it currently. Thor Love and Thunder is coming out.
Yeah.
They have like a 500 VFX shot. How many VFX shots they had? They go to studios or VFX houses and say, how much are you going to pay us to do these shots? And like, well, we can do it for like maybe $2 million. That's cutting it. Like we're taking a loss almost. And then someone else is like, I'll do it for 1.8.
Yeah.
And then they have to order to have any money at all to pay their employees. They have to constantly undersell themselves. And the thing is, if that business wasn't in place, if VFX houses were allowed to actually just take the time and do the best work, which I think this company was able to.
Yes.
Luckily.
Thank goodness.
Like, we just have, and like no VFX studio wants to do a shitty job. No one does.
No, they don't.
It's just a matter of they are forced to do lackluster work because they're not given enough time and enough money to keep afloat, which is ridiculous.
And that's literally their incentive, essentially, based on this system, which is...
Their incentive is to work like 80-hour weeks and to not have time with your family and have cots set up in the break rooms.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's kind of abysmal, but at least with this film, it seems like things were done well. Yeah. Like it like you walk away with a film you can be proud of. I'm not sure how the box office.
I can look.
Yeah,
I don't think the box office for Into the Storm was anything relatively exciting.
But I just want to say right out there to the VFX team, thank you.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Good job. Thank you for this movie.
So, Dan, to answer your question, that was the worldwide total of $161 million because of advertising and back ends and having to pay the movie theaters. Obviously, they get a third of that. It was just not going to make money. Something like it was No Time to Die. I almost said Quantum of Solace. Yeah. No Time to Die.
The new James Bond.
The newest Bond film. Costs like $250 to make.
$250? That's amazing.
Yeah,
a lot of volunteer work.
$250 million to make. But it was so delayed because of the pandemic. And, it costs money to not put a movie out. Yeah. Because you're consistently keep advertising, you have contracts, all that jazz. Yeah. And by the time it was about to come out, like this thing needs to make $1.5 billion to break even. Like it needs to cross $1 billion to break even. But yeah, let's be ready to go into the questions.
Yes.
I'm ready for that.
Final section here. I just want to ask Connor some questions and get his thoughts. We have just a couple here. I want to ask, at least just as like a little thought experiment, what would this film be like with non-actors? And if not that, maybe big actors. Like one big name actor. Like if we're talking 2014, like maybe Bryan Cranston or Chiwetel Ejiofor or Rebecca Ferguson or something. Like they get like kind of one big name to kind of a B-lister to draw people in.
If it was 2014, honestly, the big name would have been Hugh Jackman. If you would have gone a Hugh Jackman as opposed to Richard Armitage in this movie. With non-actors, I would find it very fascinating. Yeah. Especially if you went non-actors and you actually really much stuck to the found footage approach.
Yes.
Be very interesting.
I think that would be very... Because, like, sometimes I would look at some of the extras they just got. I'm like, that would be interesting if we were seeing them. Yeah. I don't know. Like, it would add to, like, this kind of, like, tense realism that I think the film lacks.
Yes. It tries. It does try.
It tries.
We did the exact same time again.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, we did the
We do that. There's a couple instances throughout the show. We do that. But next... Okay, interesting. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I agree. Next question. We watched the featurette on how they kind of made the environment of Into the Storm and the kind of the practical effects they created to help, like, with the cast. And, yeah, question. When you watched that featurette, how did that impact the film for you? Like, did you respect it more? Were you more intrigued? Like, how did things shift with how you saw it? Because I remember there was a moment when Richard Armitage is running towards a bank and a truck falls in front of the door. Yeah. And then they showed that was an actual
truck,
truck
yeah.
that they dropped, and he had to go like up to 10 meters and then like pretend like, oh no, there's a truck.
Yeah. Because I was under the impression that it was I thought it was a CG truck.
Yeah.
Because like that's a very cool, dangerous shot to do.
Yes.
And no, it was a real truck. And I did appreciate that a lot more, seeing the actual featurette.
Yeah.
The movie still has the same problems it has.
Yeah, that doesn't change it. Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to boost it up to like a 4-star movie because they dropped a real truck.
They dropped a real truck.
But I do appreciate more the fact that, I mentioned the actual care that went into the practical side of the actual like ramifications of the storm, these giant wind machines and all that. But yeah, I appreciate the craft of the movie more. Because when I say I don't like the movie, I'm not talking crap about Stephen Quayle or the actors or any of that jazz. I guess I'm talking crap about the screenwriter, which I apologize to you, sir.
Apologies.
But there's a lot of care that went into this movie. People that made it actually do care, and I do appreciate that, and that's clear to see.
Yeah. Well, I kind of appreciate it a lot myself, too. Next question. How do you compare this to Twister?
Never seen Twister.
I was going to ask, like, if you've even seen it.
Never seen it.
I personally do not like Twister. Not
really?
a fan.
Not a fan of Helen Hunt?
Well, I like Helen Hunt, man.
It's Bill Paxton the problem?
No, none of the actors. No. It's
this great state of Indiana. That's the problem, Dan.
They're in Indiana?
I think so. I've never seen it.
I'm so sorry. No. I love Indiana. I've now been here twice.
Where the cows scream.
Where the cows scream. All right. Next question. Let's look at the state of disaster movies from like the past 10 years. You start with 2012, and then you have Pompeii, The Ninja Storm, San Andreas, Crawl, Moonfall, most recently, I guess. How does this stack up to those other disaster films in your head?
List those movies again.
We have 2012, Pompeii, San Andreas, which is the
rock one.
Crawl, which I know you like, and Moonfall.
Well, Dan, it's funny you say I like Crawl.
Yeah.
That's the only one I've seen. Yeah, I've never seen those movies. Disaster movies are not usually in my bag.
Yeah.
This one looked insane when we saw the trailer in front of Live, Die, Repeat, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure it compares pretty well. It's less bombastic than other ones, I'm sure, because obviously 2012 is more of a world scale as opposed to this one kind of smallish town in Oklahoma. Yeah. I don't know that I have nothing to really contribute. I don't think I even own another disaster movie, actually, Dan.
Really?
I can look on my shelf really quick and come back to, but I don't think I own another disaster movie. Give me a half-second, team.
Interesting.
Okay. I've returned from checking my basement shelf.
Yes.
At least of my basement Blu-rays, there's no disaster movies present. Because I don't even own Crawl anymore.
Well, it's an interesting subgenre of, what would you say, it's not drama, action. Like a disaster movie is its own weird little camp of films.
Disaster movie is, in the basics of genre, it is a dramatic piece.
It's a dramatic piece in the sense that, like, go back to something like the Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah.
Very much like the 70s one. It's very much a
Titanic
70s.
You would consider to be a disaster movie as well, probably.
Oh, yeah. Titanic's probably the best example.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is an interesting just film genre in general. I think people's propensity to be like, ooh, what would happen during a disaster, and what kind of stories we insert into that disaster in films, because everyone does it a little differently. And Into the Storm is a bit more of like trying to be a human narrative, and I just don't think it goes as far as it should,
No, the whole movie itself is too shallow.
Yes.
Which is that drags the entire movie down. These characters for the most part are not people, they are archetypes, and their arcs are solved by literally a sentence.
Yeah.
Or 𝙎𝙤𝙧𝙧 Callie's arc is like, I don't spend enough time with my daughter.
Allison.
Allison, yeah. Now the tornado's gone, I guess I can go home and spend time with my daughter. Like, you know what I mean? I work too hard. Now my job's done. Cool.
Yep.
Like, that's the movie, My boss got killed in a tornado. Guess I can go home. That's...
Yeah.
That's, you know what I mean? That's the movie.
Fair. That's the movie. Yeah, this is a movie about tornadoes, but this is specifically documented in the film as the worst tornado anyone has ever experienced ever. Like, this thing is massive. It is ripping up airports in seconds. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this thing's crazy. That's the point. So...
Yeah. And Dan, I would actually like to close out the episode reading a Letterboxd review that had us doubled over in laughter last night.
We were losing it, yes.
Yeah. Like we mentioned, the logic of this movie sometimes is pretty fallible.
Yes.
With the silent tornadoes and cameras that don't exist, which
Yes.
are addressed in these points.
Just tornadoes that show up and then it's just quiet
disappear,
and peaceful, like
Yes.
it's nothing.
This is written by Sid, who is a pro member on Letterboxd. Very funny stuff, Sid.
Yes, thank you.
Who
Sid.
watched it, I believe, in its theatrical release in August 12th, 2014, because that's when the review is dated.
Wow.
This is Into the Storm's 18 fun facts about tornadoes. And I will list these to you one by one. Point 1. Tornadoes can make any cheap camera produce cinema quality images. 2. All cameras use the same microphone when filming tornadoes. Tornadoes can cause static cameras to become handheld without the need of a person. Point 4. Clothes are waterproof and stain resistant against tornadoes. 5. Tornadoes can make random people appear out of nowhere if you need help. 6. Tornadoes will cause families to immediately jump out of their vehicle and ask, "Are you okay?" 7. If a camera is set on fire, a tornado will make sure the footage is safe and retrievable.
That might be my favorite.
That's a pretty good one. This point 8 is probably my favorite, actually. 8. Tornadoes can set up and use cameras. And 9. Tornadoes are scared of animals and will not go near them. 10. Churches are indestructible against tornadoes. 11. Tornadoes cannot blow out candles. 12. Tornadoes can make a van indestructible and prevent windows and lights from smashing. It will also prevent any electronics inside from breaking. 13. Tornadoes can make video cameras waterproof.
Yep.
14. Tornadoes can allow the use of a camera without holding it, especially if the user is underwater, which is what we mentioned earlier.
With the drowning, yeah.
Yes. 15. Tornadoes can make pouring water last forever if you're almost drowning.
You're almost drowning.
16. Tornadoes allow humans to appear heavier than trees, cars, and buildings. 17. Tornadoes will cut you above your left eye. And 18. Drunk fools cannot be killed by tornadoes.
Donk-a-donk, baby.
Donk-a-donk.
Yes. Apparently they can't. Yeah. So I guess that is all we have for today. As always, Connor, thank you for letting me come visit you, watch movies on your TV, sleep in your spare room, and just and record episodes of this lovely asterisk.
But
I'm excited. You know?
I'm excited too.
We have obviously here on Film Asterisk, we have a couple episodes that will round out the rest of the year. Is there anything you would like to plug, Connor?
As always, you guys can follow me on Letterboxd at Crandberry18. That is CRAND Berry 18.
And as always, DA_N if you're looking to see the film and list that we had. All Connor's from season 1 through 4, mine from seasons 5 or 6. And any other fun stuff we have on there, you know, check out.
I'm going to say this now as a way to hopefully convince myself to do it within the next year before, not this Oscars, because March is too close and I want to do this like very well and do it right.
Yeah.
I want to make either a video essay or a very detailed essay about what I feel like is the perfect way to do the Academy Awards.
Wow.
Like, because I feel like there's so many elements of the Academy Awards that people trash on unnecessarily, and things people praise that I think is actually one of the worst things about the ceremony.
Yeah.
I'll say right now, this is a little sneak peek for when if I ever do end up making this. I think having a host is a bad idea, and I will full on agree. I will say that purely. But that being said, I think there's some benefits to being a host as well, and I want to make a very detailed, very thorough thing that might end up on this channel about my opinions on the Academy Awards.
I would love A, to host that, and B, to listen to it.
Yeah.
You know, and make it as long as you want. After my Leo episode, they're all the ceiling is high.
No, it will probably be like a 20-minute thing, especially because you guys know me talking by myself is not the best thing in the world.
Hey, now.
So,
buddy.
We'll see.
I like it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Connor, for coming back on, and thank you everyone for listening about 2014's Into the Storm. You will hear us, or at least hear me soon, and yeah, have a good rest of your week.
Bye, guys.